how to remove and install PTO clutch. Hello, and thank you for stopping by. Today I'm working on this Cub Cadet LT50. It's the XT1 Enduro Series, and I'm going to show you how to remove this PTO clutch and then install it. The problem with this unit is when the owner went to put the blades on, the clutch tore out the wires. So something underneath was loose. Now, the owner was telling me he was underneath and that I do not have to remove this deck to get to the clutch. After I jack this up, you can see how I have it rigged over here, and I went underneath to pull that clutch out. What do I find? I have to remove the deck to get the clutch out. We have this piece over here that would keep this from coming out. I may be able to maneuver it around, but for the aggravation that this may cause, it's just as easy to pull the deck out. Plus, this bar right here holding the deck would have to come off, and I'm not sure if the deck would flop. I'm not too familiar with these Cubs on the mounting brackets with the deck. Before I get started, I'm gonna have to lower this tractor, remove the deck, and that's in the video up above if you want to see how to remove this deck. And then jack it up again and get to this clutch. As soon as I remove this deck, I'll be back. I'm back. I have the deck off and I have the tractor jacked up again so I can get under it. Just to show you how I have it jacked up, I have that hoist on top, and I also have this ratchet strap just in case some of this should give, and I have underneath that ramp with a jack stand. I don't think this is going anywhere, but if it does, I'm going to be underneath it. I want to have as much protection as I can. That said, let me show you what we have. Now, most of my work I do outside. I have 3 pneumatic impact guns, but to haul the compressor out here and the guns, for me it's easier just to use this electric impact gun. Now, several of the mechanics that I speak to use the battery operated ones. I don't have one, but they look like they came a long way, and that might be the way you want to go. This is one from Harbor Freight. I don't know if they sell these any longer. I went in looking for another one. I had this maybe 6 years, and I use it all the time, taking tires off trucks, cars, everything else, and it's about on its last leg. In the description down below, I'll have my Amazon affiliate link where I'll have something similar to this and other items on there. Just want to point out, if you buy anything through my link, it's no additional cost to you, and I do get a commission on some of the items that they sell, and it does help me to keep producing these videos. Okay, that's out of the way. Now let's look at this mess we have under here. This is the PTO, and you can see where the wire was torn out over here. One of the first steps in just about any of the PTO clutches you buy says to disconnect the electric. That's already disconnected for us. Now, these could come off relatively easy, or they could be a bear, depending on how old the machine is and if it was left outside and it got wet. This doesn't look like it should be bad, but we won't know until I start. I'm going to use that impact wrench to take this bolt out, but I have to stress, do not use the impact wrench on putting this bolt back in. This bolt has to be torqued to its specifications. Each PTO clutch will have its own specification depending on the bolt size and whatnot. Do not, I repeat, do not use the impact wrench to install this bolt. All right, I need 2 hands to handle this clutch, so I'm going to put the camera down, and once I have it off, I'll show you what we have. Let me show you what we have. This clutch was a bear to get off. I spent about 20 minutes on it to get it off, and here's the problem. Look how it's cocked. Well, this being cocked, it was twisted onto that shaft and it didn't want to come off. So what I did to help loosen it up was to spray a little bit of this acetone and transmission fluid. It's a 50-50 mix I use to free rusted bolts and items like this. But this was twisted and it didn't want to come off. So what I did, after letting it soak for about 5 minutes, I just kept tapping all the way around, loosening it up a little bit, turn it, tap, and just with two hands on it, just wiggling it back and forth, and she finally gave. I thought I was going to have to get the pneumatic air hammer to get it off. That's another way to get it off, or using a puller. This is what we have underneath. We have the shaft, has some rust on it, so I'll be cleaning that up with a little sandpaper, wiping it down, and I have to bend this keeper. This is what keeps the clutch from spinning. On most of the PTO clutches that I change, there's usually a pin that's coming down, or there's a keeper to hold the belts on, and one part of the keeper will usually go into the clutch. This one's a little different here. This one is this bracket, and it looks like this bracket wasn't in, or wasn't in correctly. Now, on the new clutch, they do give you a new connecting wire, so that's good. And one of the tips when you put in a new clutch in, you want to check the voltage coming to the clutch. You want to make sure it's about 13 volts coming to it. If the voltage is too high or the voltage is too low, it could burn out the new clutch. I'm going to clean this up, change the wire, get that clutch on, and then we'll check the voltage. I have the two clutches side by side. I have the new one and the old one. This is the D spacer on a new one. You see how it slides right in and out? No, without any issues. Just slides right in and out. Here's the D spacer from the old clutch. And I even chamfered the opening a little. And watch this now. I have to push this, and I can't even get it all the way in. Right now, kind of stuck. Oh, there you go. You get stuck in there. I don't know what the problem is with this, but with the micrometer, we have the micrometer zeroed out. And with this mic, let's tighten this up. Okay, this is reading an inch. And this is a little snug, but it's reading an inch. It goes on. Let's loosen this up. An inch 0.04. Let's go to millimeters. I have it zeroed out. The new D spacer is reading 25.39, 25.40 millimeters, 41. Okay. And the old one's reading 25.44. Okay, 25.44. 25.38. And the new one, we have 25.38. And on the old one, we have 25.41. So it's 0.03 millimeters. 0.03 millimeters, let's see. 0.03 millimeters would be that. All right. I was thinking the owner picked up the wrong clutch. Either that or the clutch was milled incorrectly. But you can see this isn't going down. Now this is the same diameter as the shaft when you hold it up to the shaft. The only other reason I could think of this happening like this, other than this not being milled right on the inside, although this is fitting, slides right up and down. I don't have to apply any pressure. And this one, it won't go all the way down. I would have to slam it down, then I would have to use a punch to get it out from the other side. I had to do that already. Is when this clutch jammed up, you can see how it's twisted here, and you can see the discoloration. Camera should be picking that up. I'm thinking maybe the shaft heated up. Now I don't know how long this was running before I pulled out the wires, but if that shaft heated up, I remember watching an old video years back where they say when these shafts heat up, they swell, and then when they cool off, they shrink again, but they never shrink back to the original size. So I'm wondering if that shaft and this D-spacer just overheated and it has that slight increase in diameter. I'm going to go online and check this clutch out. This clutch was brought to me, I didn't order it, so I want to make sure this clutch goes to that tractor before I do anything else. And it was suggested from one of the forums on Facebook that I run the engine and use a flap disc and clean the shaft up. So I might go that direction next, or I just might run it with a file. This one's a little coarse, go with this mill file. I'm not sure yet. I just want to check out this clutch, and once I do, that'll give me the course of action I have to take. If this is the wrong clutch, it's going back. If it's the right clutch, then the problem I have is on the shaft from the tractor. As soon as I figure this out, I'll be back. It's working out. I wasn't able to reach the owner, couldn't get a hold of him, and I researched this clutch online. Spent about an hour researching this. This clutch does fit this unit. Now, how come it's not going on? As I mentioned earlier, it might have been that this shaft just overheated and it swelled up, never went back. I don't know. I did a nice job sanding it, cleaned out this groove in here and everything, the keyway, and it still wouldn't go on. So I was going to get a floppy disk, the sandpaper type, and just clean this up all the way around, but I was concerned about taking too much off. So I used a wire wheel, spent some time on it. It wasn't a 1, 2, 3 job, and I went around, spent a little time, went around, constantly went around, and now this clutch fits. I'm going to complete the installation of this clutch. A couple things I want to point out. When you put this bolt in, you don't want any never seize, anti-seize, any grease or oil on it. It stresses in the directions to put this in dry due to the torque that it has to have. But I am going to use some anti-seize on the shaft over here. So whoever works after me, if ever I have to take this clutch off, if it burns out or whatever, that clutch should slide right off. I didn't video my removing the clutch. It was a little tedious getting it off. I didn't have to use any pullers or torches or anything, but it was close to it. It was just spraying some 50-50 transmission fluid and acetone, rocking it back and forth a little bit that it did move, tapping it with a hammer. Spent some time on it to get the old one off. As a matter of fact, I was looking back on the video, I said 20 minutes. It was way more than 20 minutes to get the old one off. Just letting you know that, so if you come into the same problem, you don't think you're doing something wrong. So again, this goes in dry. Oh, in the direction booklet, it'll tell you if you have 3 lines like this, what size bolt that is and what the torque should be. If it has 6, what the torque should be. So yours may be different. Just look at your directions and it'll walk you right through it. I'm just going to get this on there now, and I am going to put the wire on, and I'll show you where this wire goes to it. Now I did notice when I put it on that this bracket isn't connecting into this clutch properly. This was the problem to begin with. Either it wasn't put on right when the owner changed the belt, or it bent. I'm not sure. I'm going on the assumption that it just wasn't put on right, but now it's bent. So I'm going to have to take this bracket off and try and straighten it out. And if I can't get it to reach properly before we even try using this clutch, I just order a new piece. I really prefer the bolts that come down and go into this hole. I don't care for this setup that much. But anyway, it's what we have, what we're going to work with. Once I have this clutch on, I'll be removing this. Then we'll go to the electrical, where the electric's connected. Good part is, the electric was only pulled out of the clutch. It wasn't pulled out of the unit itself. So the wiring harness is good. I don't have to mess with that. So let me get this clutch on, torque it down to the right specs, and I'll be back. Before I put that clutch on, I want to make sure I was able to get the wiring through. Here's the main wire harness, and the wire, and this is the wire that came from the clutch. Now here's the problem I have. This is the old connection. This is the new connection. No match. So I have to do one or two things. See if I have a connection like this, the clip onto here, or more than likely what I'm going to do, I'm going to cut these wires off here, cut this piece off over here, connect this end to this harness and put it together. I tell you, it just doesn't stop. This should have been a couple-hour job and it's just dragging on. Anyway, let me get that clutch on and we'll take care of this later. You can see here where this bracket isn't catching onto the clutch. This is how it should go. There's this notch. I think I have it in focus. I'm not sure. I can't see it from this angle. That notch on the bracket should be into this clutch and it's not there. This got bent when it was not installed the last time, or improperly installed. I don't know what happened. I'm going to take this off. It looks like there's only one. It's a bolt. It's no nut on the other side. Looks like it's tapped into this frame. So I'm going to take this off. I'm going to straighten it out and put it back. See if I could get it to fit properly. If not, I went online and they do sell these brackets. So I have this to take care of. This electrical component to take care of. Once it's all hooked up, we'll get this tractor down, and then the last step on doing all this is burnishing the clutch. And I'll be back once this is taken care of. I'm back working on this Y connection. This is the new wire on the new PTO clutch. This is the side that goes onto the clutch. This is the side that gets connected to the tractor. The old clutch had the wire connected right to it, and you can see the difference in the clip. If you have the tool, even without the tool, you could pop the wires out of these and put a new clip on, but I don't have the feel into this. So what I'm going to do is to cut this wire, cut this back, splice these two together. It looks like something happened to this wire once before. What? I don't know. But you can see this is where it pulled out of the clutch, and over here it looks like it just got cut probably when it was spinning around. I have one other issue. When I checked on the tractor side to see if there was voltage coming through, there's nothing coming through. I checked the fuse is good. So I'm going to have to backtrack on that. But for now, I'm just going to go about splicing these wires together. Originally, I just used the heat shrink tubes on them. But I had a few of these butt connectors left. I'm going to use this instead, and then I'll use the heat shrink tube over it. I don't know. What's your opinion? Anybody that did this before? Do you prefer the butt joints or the solder? I've used both, and I usually use the solder when I'm working on my trailer. Wires get chewed up or light breaks. I usually solder them together. But let me know what you think. The butt joints or the solder? Well, let me get started on this. As soon as I have that done, I'll be back. Okay, that only took a few minutes. Just want to point this out. When you're doing a repair like this and you're going to use the heat shrink, remember to put it on before you put it together. So you can see I cut this sleeve back a little bit. So I have the sleeve wrap, I have the sleeve around it, and now I have the heat shrink around it. And that should keep the moisture out. Should. I left it slightly longer on this side, not by much, just that little bit. Slide this over. This together now. Now I'm going to use, you could use a cigarette lighter, you could use a torch, but I'm by the garage, or I have a power source. I like using the heat gun. That's that. Okay, so now we have a connection that fits both ends. Oh, when you're doing this, make sure you cut the right end off if you have this situation. This is for the PTO side. This is for the clutch side, and this is for the tractor side. There is a difference. All right, I'm going to get back to the tractor, install this, and we'll start wrapping this job up. There isn't any power coming through this line to the connector that goes to the clutch. I pulled this line off and it checked to see if the wire was any good. It does have continuity, so the line itself is good. Now I just have to check why there isn't any power coming to it. And unfortunately on this machine, everything is under the dash, everything that comes to here. I have the dash removed and I checked. There's power coming up to the switch through this wire. There's the switch, and we have 12.33 volts that are coming to that. Now the next thing to do is to check the switch and also this relay. So it could be the switch or it could be the relay. As the power is coming to the switch, then over to the relay. Now when I turn the key, it does crank the engine. So I'm thinking it's this relay right here. I didn't mention this before. This switch looks like it's a little difficult to get out. So I'm going to check this switch while it's still in the dash itself. But I did remove the PTO switch. So I'll bench test this. And I did remove this relay. It may very well be this relay. I don't know if the camera's picking up all the corrosion that's on here. And the way this is put on, it's just taped with some electrical tape. This may be the issue right here. If this is the case, I just have to clean it up, a little dielectric grease, put it back in, but I have to check it first. And one thing, this was a little bit of an issue getting this out. If you have to pull the PTO switch out to replace it or to check it, there's these two snaps up here and two on the bottom. What I did was to squeeze the one on the bottom and try to get those started, and then push the one on top and then just wiggle it that way. It took a little doing, but it came out. Just have to take your time with it not to break it. If it's not bad, you don't want to have to replace it because you broke these tabs. Well, let me go check these out, see what I have, and then we'll be back. Okay, I'm going to start this up, make sure the clutch works, and burnish that clutch. Shadow over there, and the belt itself turning was wobbling quite a bit. So that's it. If you have any questions or comments, post them down below. If you enjoyed the video, give it a like. If you haven't done so already, subscribe. Hit that Joe Z button. And not to miss my new videos as I upload them, be sure to ring that bell. Until next time, stay safe.